All right, welcome into Get Me The Brandy. Hailey Hunter alongside Josh Getzoff. The Penguins, according to MoneyPuck.com, Josh currently a 99.9% chance of making the playoffs. We love to hear that. A win against New Jersey should hopefully help them clinch that spot. But with that, head coach Dan Muse being brought into the Jack Adams conversation right now. Sixth head coach in Penn's history to win 40 or more games in their first season with the team. So, what do you think? Is he worthy of being in the conversation, and does he have a chance at Coach of the Year?
Definitely and definitely. That's the short answers. I think. I mean, this guy has done an unbelievable job really since night one. I mean, since that win in New York on opening night where they shut out the Rangers, they've really built a foundation and built an expectation that I think what a lot of people thought was maybe just a flukier start or a nice story
Mhm.
has started to just become a good hockey team. And Dan Muse is the backbone of that with the mindset and the approach that he's installed. So I would very much put him not just in the category. I actually think if the Penguins make the playoffs, which is, we sit here and speak right now, it seems more likely than not that that's going to happen. I don't see how, based on the preseason prognostications, he wouldn't be one or two on everyone's ballots.
I couldn't agree more. And you see it all over social media. It seems like a lot of people agree with us with that. But when it comes to, basically 50% of the roster was new this year, the amount of players that he's impacted. Is there a player that stands out to you the most that he's maybe had a big impact on? You think of Ben Kindle, an 18-year-old, helping him develop. Igor Chinikov, literally averaging a goal every other game right now after coming to Pittsburgh. Eric Carlson playing more freely. What do you think?
Um, I, I think the first name that does come to mind is Carlson, just because of
Yeah.
the year that he's had, and I think that Dan Muse does deserve a lot of credit for that. I mean, of course, Carlson's the guy on the ice, and a lot of the issues that he had the last couple of years as a Penguin were self-inflicted issues with how the decisions he made on the ice and how he chose to approach certain situations weren't the Eric Carlson types of moves that we had seen previously prior to coming to Pittsburgh, but I mean, this year, yes, he's making those right decisions, but I also feel like there's been an opportunity here where Dan Muse and his staff, whether it's Mike Stuthers or another one of the assistants, kind of looked at this situation for Carlson and felt like Parker Wotherspoon, since right, you and I were right there since day one of training camp, would
Yeah.
have a better opportunity to be himself alongside a guy like Wotherspoon, who seemed primed to take a step in his career. That's part of the reason the Penguins gave him a contract with term last summer. And also is more of a sturdier guy that understands that he's not going to be caught out of position and he's not going to be any kind of liability for his partner. And that's allowed Carlson just to play. But the one thing that about Carlson this year for me that I give Dan Muse 100% credit on is the involvement on the PK. Because I just think, I mean, you watch these guys and you watch how they're wired, and Eric is obviously 100% wired for offense, and that's part of what makes him fun and exciting. But to make him kill penalties, you've now instructed him that there's going to be a little bit more of a defensive side to the game. And you're also going to be involved in the game more, even if there are a lot of penalties and we're shorthanded a lot. It's not like he's sitting on the bench like he was in previous seasons. He's right out there engaged in the mix. I just think that's added to him becoming more well-rounded, but also realizing internally, like within his own body, he is so important for this team with how he plays in all situations and helps to facilitate things. So I can't say enough about the year that he's had, but I think if you're looking at a specific player, Dan Muse's involvement has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. And just seems so loose and confident this year. Carl just seems to really be liking all of his new teammates, liking head coach Dan Muse. And to your point, I mean, it really does help when you're involved in all situations. It also helps you kind of predict what like other power plays and other PKs are going to do when you're on those units consistently. But when you look at some of the other names, Josh, Lindy Ruff, Sabres, heck of a year. John Cooper, obviously Tampa Bay Lightning, Jared Bednar, Colorado Avalanche, Joel Quenneville, Anaheim Ducks. Those are some of the names that are floating around in this conversation right now. I know obviously people probably think it's crazy that like Cooper and Bednar still have not won coach of the year, but we have to remember that this is usually goes for a team that like a coach has really kind of turned around a struggling team. At least more often than not, it seems to have gone that way. Who do you think is Coach Muse's biggest, I guess, competition, if you will, of those names?
Yeah, no, first I do agree with you on the Bednar and Cooper comment. And I think that
Yeah.
unfortunately, just like Mike Sullivan here in Pittsburgh, not the last couple of years, but in prior seasons, your team is so good that you're expected to be good. And the coach doesn't necessarily get a whole lot of credit when the team is good. But of course, if the team sputters, then the coach is the first guy to go, right? It's always funny how that works.
Hard
But
job,
in all
man.
seriousness, yeah, right. It's a tough business. I mean, as Mike Sullivan said many times, you're hired to be fired in the National Hockey League and really in any coaching profession. It's just a matter of, when that time runs its course. But I think if you're looking at Dan Muse's direct competitor, it's Lindy Ruff. And
Yeah.
that's because the Sabres were the worst team in the NHL, going, not even that far away, like pretty much around Christmas. And he's had them on this insane clip, for a team that hasn't made the playoffs in over a decade and has the longest drought in the NHL, to get them in, to get that city buzzing again, to get the belief back from Buffalo. I think, first of all, just as an aside, it's amazing for hockey. The NHL is a better place when the Sabres are a good team and they're in the playoffs. And we're all going to see why here in the coming weeks, or be reminded why for those that don't totally remember the last few years the Sabres were in before their drought. But I think Lindy Ruff deserves a lot of credit because, listen, I think there's also the element when they had that slow start and it's another year of just the doldrums in Buffalo. And this guy's been around the block more than one time. I mean, I saw the other day, he's been involved in the Sabres organization for 5 different decades as both a player and a coach.
Wow.
So he's been there forever. His second stint, obviously, now as the head coach of the team, but he's been there through some of the best moments in Sabres history. And I think it's kind of cool that he's the guy there now as they're on their way back up. And, I'm sure in their minds ready to make a big push. So I'd say it's really right now, it's really between him and Dan Muse. And I do think as much of a great year as it's been with Buffalo, if the Penguins clinch a playoff spot, to me, it's still Muse. Because even though Buffalo's had this huge run, if you remember, Hailey, before the year, a lot of people, they were the sexy pick to finally get over the hump.
Yeah.
No one just thought they would do it like this. So that's
No.
why I still give the nod to Muse.
Okay, so even if, they both are in the playoffs and let's say Buffalo goes quite a bit further than the Penguins do, you still think Muse gets the nod?
Yeah. And also
Okay.
just for what it's worth, I that's in the Broadcasters Association that votes on the Jack Adams. Those votes are tabulated before any long playoff runs. So just as a
Oh,
disclaimer out there to anybody who may have some thoughts, those come a little bit earlier. But I basically just revealed to you my ballot. I won't say any more out loud, but you can kind of guess where I'm going, as far as the Penguin or as far as the Jack Adams would be concerned.
I don't think we're surprised, but that's
No, it
amazing.
shouldn't
It's
be,
really
right?
important detail that I think a lot of people maybe didn't know. So that's great to know, Josh. Well, with that, potential first round of playoffs, we're talking about who it's going to be. Is it going to be on the island? Is it going to be in Columbus? But now, is it maybe going to be in Philly? Like, is this actually going to happen? What do you think? What a series that would be.
Oh, I can't tell you how much I'm hoping for this series, and I know I'm not alone. There's a whole contingent of Penguins fans, Haley, that, yeah, I know they played in 2018. Let's just call that for what it was. The Flyers were just happy to be there, and the Penguins were trying to three-peat. It wasn't the same kind of Flyers Penguins as it was in, say, 2012, one of the craziest and most epic series in recent memory in hockey, not just Penguins Flyers, or the
Mhm.
2009 and 2008 series, which were bloodbaths, separately and for different reasons. So I just think this, if both these teams are going to get back in the playoffs this year, which it certainly looks like is going to be the case, it would be
Yeah.
pretty cool, to have that be the way they both get back in, because here in Pittsburgh, some organizations would laugh and be like, it's only been 3 years, but like the organization, that's a long time for the Pittsburgh Penguins to not be in the
Oh yeah.
playoffs. And the Flyers obviously have had their ups and downs struggles. They've been really hot lately. I know that city's starting to get behind them more. So I just don't think anything beats Penguins Flyers when it's at its peak. The caveat to that is it hasn't really been at its peak for over a decade now.
Yeah.
But that would change in a hurry, I think, if they got a first round matchup, because two teams that kind of feel like they're both going like this, right? Like neither team is just hanging on for dear life to get in the playoffs. They both kind of have this build, which I think would set up an epic, like, and I mean epic, potential 7-game series. And by the way, if they play all 7, let's just call it for what it is. We want a 7-game
Okay.
series. We want chaos. We don't want like a sweep or a blowout. We want an absolute classic of a series. So
Only if it
yeah,
depends
I'm
when
going
I'm with
all in
you.
on that. What's that?
I said only if it depends when I'm with you on that. But
Well,
no,
yeah, of
Sidney
course. That's the
Crosby would love to see some more goals in Philly. We love when he scores in Philly. It drives the fans nuts. And I'm sure Connor Clifton will throw a few punches as well. So I would love to see that. Hey, I'm curious though, like it's looking like it's going to be Flyers right now. But if you had to choose a team of, Flyers, Blue Jackets, Capitals, Islanders, of who you think the Penguins would stand the best chance against in securing that first round series, like who would you pick?
best chance. That's a good question because I feel like there's so
Yeah.
many intangibles with each team, and you could
True.
really make an argument that each team could be a challenge for different reasons. I mean, Flyers are a challenge because they're the hottest team of the group right now, and they just added Porter Martone and Tyson Forster back into the mix, and they have a really, really good team. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been kind of sputtering, but they just saved their season. I think in Detroit with that late goal from Adam Fantilli, and then they get a shootout win. They're only a couple points back of the Flyers to move into that
No.
third spot. And the Islanders just made a huge coaching change, taking a page out of the Vegas book. We'll see if they can also go 4-0 because that's basically what they have to do down the stretch to get into the playoffs. I don't think there's any other path for them as it is right now. So,
Yeah.
oh man, I just I'm not quite ready to say the Capitals are one of those teams that's in the mix yet, but I guess if you had to include them, there's still the aspect that they are a physical team and they would grind over the course of a playoff series. I would say I don't know. I mean, it's a hard
Tough.
question. I probably Columbus just because of the Penguins' history against them head to head. You'd feel
Yeah.
pretty good with that matchup. But I really think the way the Penguins are playing right now, and I mean they proved it with that back to back with the Islanders in Detroit last week. They can beat anybody, especially the teams around them, and that's also what I think makes it so exciting for them. Because as a fan or as a broadcaster, and you're following the team, you're looking around and you're thinking, okay, like there's not really a huge roadblock here for this team to go on a run. And they put themselves in that situation and they've created that kind of thought and belief. So if I have to pick
Yeah.
a team, I'm picking the Blue Jackets, but even that one, I don't feel overly confident in saying it would be quote unquote easier than anybody else.
It's playoff hockey. It's so hard to pick. I actually was going to say the Islanders. I mean, I felt like they were on a good run, but the last time the Penguins played them, they just seemed kind of off, really disconnected. Obviously, when you bring in a new coach, sometimes that changes kind of the vibe in the locker room. So we'll see. But yeah, I would go with, I think Blue Jackets and Islanders would be my top two picks. But hey, what about the fact we didn't even talk about, a couple of former Penguins coaches on this Flyers staff as well, and Rick Tocchet and Todd Reardon? I mean, what do you think that adds to this overall kind of excitement of, an in-state rivalry?
Well, it's kind of funny too because both guys for different perspectives. Easy for me to say. It's not like
Yeah.
I speak for a living. Different perspectives and different roles. Both these guys have had moments against the Penguins. I mean, Rick Tocchet, you go back to a certain generation. Everyone, of course, remembers him as a Philadelphia Flyer playing against the Penguins. And now it's obviously reversed with him being the coach. But Todd Reardon, don't forget, he was an assistant coach on that Capitals team in 2018 that beat the Penguins en route to winning the Stanley Cup. So he's had some moments against them as well, aside from being one of their coaches. So I think both those guys, there's probably already a bit of a known commodity in the sense of what it's like to go against the Penguins, despite their histories with them and the success they've had as a member of the organization. Um, I do think though, like Rick Tocchet is I mean, we all love him, anybody who's been around him. But man, it's easy to also not like somebody over the course of a heated playoff series. And I could see that spinning on its head pretty quickly for him as far as the relationships. I mean, it happened to Max Talbot briefly, as everyone remembers in 2012 in that series against the Flyers. He's, of course, redeemed himself. We love Max. But that kind of those kind of series and those kind of games, they can change perception in a hurry, Hailey, because the rivalry is just that heated and that thick.
So many storylines. I love it. Yeah, I think everybody, it's safe to say, would like to see that Flyers Pens matchup. But hey, 3 days off. I shouldn't say off. The Penguins are still practicing, but non game days. This had to have been huge for the team going into what's going to be a couple more games and then hopefully the playoffs. Because I don't know about you, but that was kind of an exhausting week. 5 games, traveling twice. I mean, the guys had to have appreciated the time off.
Definitely. That was, I mean, I don't remember a week like that.
Yeah,
5 games in 7 days, back to backs at either end of it. That was busy. To win 4 out of 5 is pretty remarkable, when you
huge.
consider the amount of hockey they've played. And I think we all, like they go into Tampa, that was a clunker of a game. But the other side of it is like Borky and I were talking about this on the broadcast that night. And I know you guys talked about it on the post game show that this kind of game is normal. Like that
Yeah.
Tampa game is not the thing the Penguins did though is they built themselves a cushion that they could have a game like that. Unlike some of these teams around them that cannot afford to have a game like that anymore or their seasons are going to be over. The Penguins had done a good job of stringing together consecutive wins, consecutive points, and had a clunker. But yeah, I think this is a huge stretch for them because let's not beat around the bush. I mean, every team's dealing with it, but there's clearly multiple guys that are hurt on this team or banged up in some way. And to
Long
not
season.
have to put your body through the ordeal of a game for let's they also finished Sunday around 6 o'clock. So it wasn't a terribly late night. To have Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night to all recover, I think is really important. And it would be even better for them because if they win against New Jersey, they're in. I mean, there are other factors at play where they could get in without a win. But it's as simple as that. If they win, they're in. It really sets themselves up nicely, I think, to potentially conserve themselves and get a little bit even more rest. Like there's no guarantee you have to ice your full team in those back-to-backs against Washington or the season finale in St. Louis. And also another thing, Hailey, that I think is interesting, not to get too far ahead of it from the rest perspective, though, but the season ends on Thursday in the National Hockey League, the regular season. The Penguins end on
Yeah,
Tuesday. So they will have an extra couple of days of R&R just built in to begin with before they begin a playoff series. So I think they
that's
would
right.
really behoove them if they could beat the Devils on Thursday, give themselves a real opportunity to rest guys, to not have anybody be forcing themselves into games that they don't need to be doing right now, and set themselves up to be as rested and healthy as they could possibly be, hopefully come game one, whenever that is next weekend.
Yeah, it's a really great point. Okay, Jack Hughes, just chill out for a game, all right? Let's just get this settled and let's not keep things interesting like the Penguins have the last couple of years. We're all ready to clinch that playoff spot sooner rather than later. Oh my gosh. Okay, when we return with Get Me the Brandy, it is time to talk some Frozen Four hockey with Robert Morris head coach Derek Schooley. Can't wait for him to join us next.
No one gets you ready for puck drop like Penguins Face Off Live. Pre-game insights, analysis, and a word straight from the coach. Penguins Face Off Live before every game on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield.
We are so excited to have Robert Morris head hockey coach Derek Schooley join us on Get Me the Brandy now. He's also, of course, the host of United States College Hockey Online Weekend Review. 21 years with RMU coach, truly an incredible career. And I see that you are actually at the arena in Vegas right now for the Frozen Four. Tell me about the excitement being there with everybody at the arena right now.
Yeah, the practices are just started, so this is kind of day one of things getting going. People started arriving last night. There's signs on usually when you have the Frozen Four like Pittsburgh, you have like just signs on street poles and signs at the airport. Here, everything's so digital, and here everything's on a marquee, and it block. I mean, you're walking on the strip, and you got them on marquees everywhere. I think it's going to be pretty cool. We got four of the so-called blue bloods here, and it should be exciting to see this Frozen Four in person.
So exciting. Well, we're really excited to get your thoughts on the X's and O's of the tournament. Before we get into that, though, would love to just hear about your past season. Of course, that ended a few weeks ago in the AHA conference semis, but just reflecting on your season with RMU as a whole. What do you take away? How do you assess the team season overall?
Yeah, it was a good season. We started off a little bit slow, underachieved a little bit in our non-conference. it hurts when you have to open up against University of Michigan and then Notre Dame back-to-back weekends on the road. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but we played really well in those games. And I will have seen Michigan at the beginning of the year. Now I'll have a chance to see them tomorrow at the end of the year. So that'll be different to see their growth. But we really got going in the second half of the year. We came into Christmas with a big win over Air Force. And then the second half, we just got a little belief in ourselves, a belief in what we're doing as a team, and started to pile together wins, and kind of took an attitude of we were going to get points every weekend. And we got good goaltending. We started getting more scoring than we got at the beginning of the year, and our defense kept playing well. So took us from about 8th place to battling for second on the last weekend of the year, and playoffs was very challenging. Air Force was a 3-game series that went down to the wire. Then we had to play another 3-game series against Sacred Heart, and we just ran out of gas. But it was 6 games in 10 days took a toll, especially at the college level.
Well, we are always rooting for you guys. We love keeping up with you guys and showing all the score updates on our pre- and post-game shows. But now as you turn the page to next season, just what are you most looking forward to achieving this summer as you get ready for that next season?
I love our group, our core that's coming back. I think we've got a little bit of everything. We've got some really good seniors returning. We've got a young class coming in. Everybody's maturing. We've had good goaltending. I just think in college sports, you have to retool a little bit every year. And that's what we've done, and we think we're really excited about our group coming in.
Okay, so excited to keep up with everything with you guys. As we get into the Frozen Four, though, of course, you just mentioned it. Not easy when you have to kick off your season against U of M. First-round pick for the Penguins, Will Horkoff, a big part of that group. You had to play against him right away in October. So just curious, what has impressed you the most about this young Will Horkoff?
Well, he's a big power forward. He gets to the front of the net, but he's also got sneaky skill. And I think that's one of the things that was really noticeable, and just how big he is. He's a guy that he uses his size very effectively. He gets into corners. He does the dirty work, but then, like I said, he's got this skill set that you see, and you're like, wow, that's why he's a high pick of the Penguins. And really think that it was a tough start to us to have to see it, but we got to see him in person, and I'm looking forward to watching his growth.
Yeah, I was talking with his head coach a couple months ago, Brandon Naurato, and he was saying, it's not just like he's tapping things in and all of his line mates are doing all of the dirty work for him. He's really good at creating offense for himself in different creative and unique ways. But he also acknowledged that, there's a big jump going from college, of course, to pro hockey. So as he looks to in the near future make that jump, just what do you think from watching him play might be the biggest challenge for him, biggest area that he needs to grow in?
Well, I think the one thing, I don't see him every day, and obviously Brandon Naurato sees him, sees all his strengths. What I see from the outside is a guy that's going to take what he did in college hockey and have to translate it to the pro game and find his way, because the things that he does here at times is he's not going to be able to do at the next level. So I think that's probably really the most important thing when you think of Will Horkoff and what he's doing. And obviously his dad played a lot in the NHL, a Michigan State alum, which I don't know how that goes over at Thanksgiving, but it is what it is. But I think that's the biggest thing. I think I'll be interested to see how he takes his game and molds it into to being a pro.
Yeah, well, you have family from Michigan, and I grew up in Muskegon, Michigan. We were Michigan fans, but a lot of my friends were State fans. So I am very interested to hear how that Thanksgiving meal goes. But with that, you mentioned North Dakota practicing behind you right now. Another Penguins draft pick and Max Swanson on that team. For those who maybe haven't heard as much about him as they have a guy like Horkoff, how would you describe his game as we get ready to watch him this weekend?
Skill guy, not undersized, but not huge, but he's a skilled player that can make dynamic plays. He's a guy that obviously I watched him play a lot in junior hockey coming up, and you just see the ways that he makes some plays and makes the people around him better. And I think those are things that are going to be excited to watch here in the Frozen Four. You can hear the North Dakota chants going behind me right now, and it's pretty exciting to have this kind of atmosphere. But he's a dynamic player that makes plays and makes everybody around him better.
That's awesome. It's awesome that you're going to be there all weekend long. And it also seems like maybe his season's taken off a little bit more since he's been put on a line next to Calgary first rounder Cole Rushney, 5 goals in his last 8. Just what do you think it is about those two players that might mesh well together?
Well, Reshny's been an outstanding player ever since he came here last year or this year from the Western
Yeah.
Hockey League, and he's just been one of those guys that they brought in. And obviously, those things are you got two highly skilled players playing. I don't have a chance to watch North Dakota as much because they're not on TV here. But everything I hear about him, Reshny, Swanson, they're all really good hockey players, and they're going to have to be the straw that stirs kind of the drink and make
Yeah.
sure that they're excited, ready to play, and play with energy tomorrow night.
Well, a lot of people are watching throughout the weekend for this reason. Of course, there's a lot of draft eligible players on the ice in Vegas this weekend. Just who are some of the 2026 prospects that you think we should keep our eyes on as we watch these games?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things is you're going to see a lot of guys that are free agents. The interesting thing about this tournament this year is you got 4 freshman goaltenders, and they all came from the Canadian Hockey League, and I think that's a big storyline to watch. And I think those goalies are going to be the kind of what makes their team go. Jack Ivankovic from Michigan's been outstanding. Jan Spunar of North Dakota didn't give up any goals in the regionals, and North Dakota hasn't given up any power play goals in their last 4 games, but Spooner hasn't given up a goal. Let that sink in. So I think those are things that are really the kind of the storylines and the prospects that you really need to see.
Hey, you mentioned, I actually wanted to ask you about this too. Obviously, a little bit of a different atmosphere. A lot of people have been maybe even more interested in watching college hockey this year because of the fact that the CHL players are eligible now. That rule has changed. What are some of the biggest ways that you've maybe seen things change for college hockey this year, just with the influx of all of those players coming in?
Well, it just brought a whole another pool of hockey players to college hockey. And I think it made college hockey better as a whole. Obviously, you got the high impact players like the Gavin McKennas and the Porter Matones and the Cole Reshnys, but it just made the depth better. We have 3 players from the West, 1 from the Western Hockey League, 2 from the Ontario Hockey League. And those guys came in, and first of all, they had to kind of get back into the school mode. And once they did that, you saw them take off. It just makes college hockey better from the top down because the pool is just so much bigger and we can get better players. So it's exciting. We've got 4 more guys from the Canadian Hockey League coming in next year, and it's just you're going to see more and more coming every year.
Wow. Yeah. Really exciting time for college hockey. And you mentioned it, Gavin McKenna, of course, Penn State. A lot of people, especially in the Pennsylvania area, talking about him. How much have you been able to see him play? What have your thoughts been on him, his first season with Penn State?
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of the outdoor game before we played, and you could see his skill. You could see, I think the one thing that probably is that people are questioning right now is his defensive game a little bit. He struggled a little bit but that's what this is about for high profile players like that, to come in and play against bigger, stronger, faster players, get better in the weight room, get their bodies better in a better scenario for being ready to play pro hockey. And that's why people are making the jump from the Canadian Hockey League to NCAA, because of the practice time, because of the high intensity games that you play. Every game in college hockey is like a playoff game. So I think that those are things that when Gavin McKenna, it wasn't like just a throwaway game number 58 in Moose Jaw, and they're playing the outdoor game against Michigan State. Those high profile things are exciting, and I'm interested to watch his growth, but he is a super skilled player, and he's going to make a city very happy.
That's a really good point. I mean, along with that, that's of course part of it, but just what are some of the biggest challenges in kind of making that jump from playing in, say, the Western Hockey League to now playing college hockey? Of course, you manage, all of the classes and the school element part of it, but what are the biggest differences in the style of game, would you say?
Well, that's the thing about I would say it's more wide open in the CHL. The CHL is more wide open. They trade chances. They go back and forth. College hockey's structure. I always say that pro hockey's a marathon, college hockey's a sprint. And it's the same way with the CHL because they play so many games. So you have to be detailed and orientated in everything you do. You've got to get used to lifting 3 times a week, where when you're playing that many games, you can't lift as much. So you spend more time in the weight room. Then you got to, on top of that, then you got to go to school, and you got to get readjusted to going back to school and the classes that you take, and making yourself a student athlete and doing more than just being a hockey player. And I think I was really proud of our 3 guys. They did outstanding in school, and They all had A's. They haven't had less than an A yet, which means they were dedicated to be a student as well as an athlete. So I'm interested to see how they'll do in the second semester here.
That's incredible. As a former college athlete, it was or golf athlete, it was sometimes me playing rounds and feeling sore walking up those big hills. So I wonder, are some of these guys playing sore sometimes as they try to, get a little bit bigger in the weight room? You would think if 3 times a week.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're going 4. You're doing some mobility. You're doing something. You're doing stretching. You've got nutrition, all that stuff. So, are they a little sore? I don't know. It's no different than walking the hills of Pittsburgh, I guess.
Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, I thought that
Yeah.
when I first moved to Pittsburgh, I would just be playing 9 holes and walking all the time, but I have since decided to pay the cart fee. That is for sure. Hey, this has been just a fun thing everyone's been talking about, of course, of the current top 5 teams in the NHL draft order. Where do you think McKenna best fits? Vancouver, Chicago, Calgary, New York Rangers, Seattle. Does any team kind of jump out to you?
Calgary, because I think with them building a new arena, I think that would be really good for their city and their franchise.
Yeah.
Chicago, they just keep getting you can't just keep getting all the high draft picks. So I think Calgary is something that when you name those teams out, that stuck out to me right away.
I know, send some to Pittsburgh, but hey, the Penguins are doing pretty good themselves right now. How much have you been following the Penguins season and the excitement that they're likely going to be punching a playoff ticket?
Yeah, I've been obviously I watch them every night when I'm home during the week, and really amazed about the job that Dan Muse has done and what he's getting out of the older guys, but also the younger guys like Ben Kindle and all the different guys, and then the goaltenders have just all stepped up in a different way. And what you thought was a rebuild is more of a retool. So congratulations to. I think Dan's done an outstanding job. He was a college coach. He won a national championship at Yale, right in PPG Paints Arena. And I think he's a very good coach, and we're Pittsburgh Penguins are lucky to have him.
Yeah, we were just talking about it on our show that, there's definitely a lot of conversations around Coach of the Year with him right now. So we'll see how that all plays out, especially if they do punch that playoff ticket. Before we let you go, we got to ask you, of course, $1 million question. Who do you have winning it all this weekend?
CHO stuff yet, so I haven't had to make that prediction of who is going to win the whole thing. I would say, I'm just going to say because we opened with them, Michigan. I'll give you 2 reasons. Michigan, because we played them, and these are all selfish Pittsburgh Robert Morris reasons. Michigan, because we played them, and I thought they were outstanding when we played them. And then I would say Wisconsin, because we open the season at Wisconsin next year, and I'd love to be able to be at a banner raising ceremony and spoil it. So those are kind of the picks that I'm looking at. But if selfishly Wisconsin, but I think Michigan, it might be their time this year.
Quote of the whole chat. I'd love to be at a banner ceremony and have us spoil it. That's great, Coach. I love that. Well, I'm from Michigan, obviously a Penguins fan, excited about Horkoff. So I'm certainly rooting for the Wolverines as well. You have any plans in Vegas aside from being at the rink 24/7? Are you going to do anything fun?
No. Well, I keep trying to get them to do things earlier so I can get out in the sun and make my face as red as his shirt. So we've got to film our previews for tomorrow, and then I'll enjoy the weather here. It's been too up and down lately in Pittsburgh the last week, so I know it's 85 and sunny today.
We were in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, for our game against Vegas, and it was, I think, 80 degrees, and I actually got a sunburn from sitting out there for an hour. So that just goes to show the kind of winter we've had in Pittsburgh. But Coach, don't work too hard. So excited for this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, and looking forward to having you on Get Me The Brandy at some time in the future too.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you, guys.
The road to puck drop begins on Penguins Tonight. A first look at the latest game news, stories from around the league, and so much more. Penguins Tonight, 1 hour before every game on SportsNet Pittsburgh. Presented by Morgan & Morgan.
Okay, time for some Cup convos, Josh. You know the drill. Weekly look back as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Pens' 2015-16 Cup Championship. This week in Penguins history, they won their 8th consecutive road game, which set a new franchise record. Okay, thanks to some of their road stats being pretty elite, like having the best defense in the East. But my question is, do you remember the team having kind of a certain confidence from that season when they went into other buildings on the road? And I'm also curious if you've noticed maybe any of that similar confidence to the Penguins. They've been pretty this year on the road. They've been pretty good.
I do notice a lot of similarities actually between this year's team and that 2016 team, just in the sense of how they play the game, but also that internal belief and feeling that seems to be really permeating from the group as a whole. But to get to that 2016 team, I do remember those that road run, easy for me to say, as far as the success they had away from Pittsburgh, and I think that kind of built. If we remember back when Mike Sullivan was hired that year, it was a slow burn. I mean, I think he lost his first few games. It took a little while for them to get some traction. It really wasn't until, January into February, and really once you got towards the end of February into March, where you could feel the traction starting to build and the momentum starting to build. And they, were playing their best hockey through that stretch and setting that road win streak record en route to obviously, getting into the Stanley Cup playoffs, running over the New York Rangers, and then going on to winning the Stanley Cup. I do think that there are some similarities between the two teams, because I think the Penguins are also, there's been some peaks and valleys this year, and every season has peaks and valleys. I mean, that 16 team had a massive, valley before they reached their peak. They fired their coach. Like that's as low as you can get. But this year's team, I just feel like has been they've had their dips. Like we remember that stretch right before Christmas, losing 9 out of 10. That was terrible. It's amazing they survived that when you think about it. But that now that they're where they are, it's really felt like since that, I don't know, since Christmas break, even maybe it's been a slow build,
Yeah.
and then it hit another gear after the Olympic break, and, battling, even though they didn't win every game, excuse me, battling without Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin for an extended stretch against some of the best teams in the league, and picking up points in 4 out of the 5 games they played without the two of them in the lineup together. I think those kind of things, that belief that I was talking about, it just really does start to build. Not that it wasn't there to begin with, but then you're kind of rewarded for how you're thinking when the results go your way. So I see a lot of similarities, honestly. And it's kind of
Yeah.
freaky actually between the two
Oh,
teams.
okay. I like to hear that. Yeah. I mean, you look at, Penguins have points in 28 of their 38 road games, sixth best in the entire National Hockey League this season. That's pretty incredible thinking back to last year and how much it seemed like they struggled on the road. So yeah, you love to see that. Not always easy to go into other buildings and win, but if you had to pick between Philly, Long Island, Columbus, and Washington, D.C., what would your favorite road city be to visit? Not from, okay, this is who we want the Penguins to play in the playoffs, but non-hockey related, just where do you like to visit the most?
Well, I have no problem saying out loud, definitely of that group, not Long Island. No offense. I know you
Okay.
used to live there.
I did
Definitely not.
all year.
I would say it would probably be for different reasons. I love Columbus. I always say to Penguins fans, if you've never been, that is totally worth the trip to go there. And I
Underrated.
think, in a playoff series, you get a little bit of extended time. You got Ohio State at one end of the town. You got the whole Columbus Blue Jackets set up. They have the baseball team there. They have a soccer team there. There's a lot to do. It's a very outdoor friendly city, walking, bars, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. Philly would be cool. I obviously have a lot of connections back there, but also like the same thing. There's sports going on. The Phillies potentially could be playing. You could check out a baseball game. Citizens
Yeah.
Bank Park in Philly is no PNC, but it's a pretty nice park for what it's worth, and also a cool area to check out. So I'd say probably Philly, because that would mean the Flyers. I know that's not
Yeah.
the right way to describe how I'd prefer the cities, but if I'm talking about just the sense of experiencing the city, having some fun, I always like a good couple days in Columbus, but I'd probably pick Philly.
Josh really wants to go to Philly. What did Long Island ever do to you?
Nothing. I don't know. And I know I have a lot of friends that live there, and they always tell me I'm just seeing the wrong areas, and that's fair. We don't really get to see a ton, but I just, every time I'm there, I can't wait till I leave.
Fair. It is always a little hectic. I mean, you're so close to New York City and, we're just focused on getting to the rink. And yeah, no, I
Yeah.
totally get that. I'm sure there's a lot of pockets that we don't know about. I'm sure in the summer too, with some of those like
That's
little
true.
cities on the water, I've heard that's just like the time of year there. I actually stopped working on the island right before summer. So I feel like I literally was there for all of the cold weather and left. So I'll have to go back and experience that at some point. But for me, I have to say DC. I think Georgetown is so pretty. Just that whole street, that whole area. Gage and I are actually going to go there this coming weekend. I think we're going to hop around, do some museums. Have you done any of the museums there, by the way, in DC?
Yeah, it's totally worth it. I agree. I actually
Okay.
didn't consider Washington in that answer, but yeah, that would be up there. That's definitely a top road city in the league, and you should do it. You should do all the museums you can. You should walk around and do the memorials and check
Yeah.
them out, especially with the weather being nicer. That's another just. I mean, it's a history. Everything about DC is cool, but to see all that stuff and all the the memorials, the monuments, it's awesome. You should do it.
Okay. I can't wait, but not better than Philly, right?
I don't know, actually. DC, I really like. That's a good point. I kind of probably would pick DC over Philly if I had to spend some time there. Seriously, I like
It is a
DC.
good
I
little
just don't think
city.
the Caps are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think it's looking like it's going to be that Philly Pens matchup, but we'll find out soon enough. We're almost there, right? 2 more points. Come on, Penguins against New Jersey. And that is going to do it for Get Me the Brandy. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on this week's episode and enjoy that next game against the Devils.